there's a link to that part place, because they are the ones that that have the story here. And the gist of it, for those that don't remember, and that's probably most of you, the Galactic Star Cruiser is this gigantic building in the shape of a Star Cruiser that took a billion to build. This is the place where people could pay a fortune in order to cosplay being in the sequel trilogy era for the weekend, with replicas of Rey jumping around and stuff like that. And they would get to sleep in this tiny little quarters inside the Star Cruiser and stuff. So basically, it's like going to a cosplay event only for the whole weekend, and play an extortionate amount to do it, because this was really expensive.
Or pay to be a prisoner,
expensive, it was kind of a huge flop, because you have basically priced out the fan base. It was only for like the wealthiest of fans, and there really aren't that many of them.
It was like $5,000 a day.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
Yeah,
completely insane and ridiculous to justify this massive cost. And since it was such a massive cost, after some initial interest, no one really showed up for it. So they kind of had to shut it down, and they'd blown a billion on this building. So what to do with this $1 billion investment? Well, according to that Park Place, who has followed this up, massive kudos to all of the fine ladies and gentlemen over there. The most likely end destination for the $1 billion Star Wars hotel is to become office space for the creatives in Disney and Lucasfilms. They'll be living in this really fancy thing. So $1 billion well spent. I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't have cost all that much to build like a generic building for them. Not that they even needed it, but now that they wasted that $1 billion, they have to use it for something. So now it's an office building.
If you're curious about the Galactic Star Cruiser, its history, its insides, outs, and everything else, there's a great documentary by Jenny Nicholson on YouTube. It's 4 hours long because it goes into all the details, and she actually went to the thing and took part in all the activities and such. But yeah, if you want to know about how it started, what all the hubbub was, and what it was actually like going through the event itself and the aftermath, great documentary. Take it in pieces, though, because 4 hours is a long set.
And they hated her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they tried to get her video taken down for a while. They tried to copyright claim a bunch of stuff. She eventually got it back up.
They sent stormtroopers after her. But they couldn't hit her.
That's the legal variety, yeah. Those are the worst stormtroopers.
Well, and here's my thing is, didn't they do some write-off last year for this thing, so maybe they can't do anything more than turn it into office space? Is that something that has to do with anything, perhaps?
No, that's not. They're going to write off the investment in it, but that doesn't stop them from trying again.
So they can't reuse the... I just wondered if there was some kind of stipulation that they couldn't reuse the space.
No. It's just a lot for the fiscal quarter and the fiscal year, and that's all. And they can still use the building for whatever they want. Their problem is that they didn't find a better usage for it than office space. It's evidently nothing more that can be done.
They couldn't put Muppet 3D there?
Yeah, a bunch of cubicle rooms. Yeah, I mean, the hotel itself was a bunch of rooms without real window. There were no windows. They were just like little prison
jail
cells.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
No.
It's like,
basically
rent a...
Yeah, there are prison cells with like OLE like screens to simulate space or something. So you're basically in a tiny little box room with one door, and it's very cramped, and there's nothing in particular to look at. And so I can just imagine the office space just being the most dreary sort of, a nightmare Kafka-esque communist setup for anybody that has to work at Disney.
It's going to feel like you're going to work in the Soviet Union in the 80s.
Yeah.
Only with metal instead of concrete.
We are opening new Star Wars Galactic Cruiser. Come on in and pretend like you are working.
Well, and we all know that that KK nixed anything to do with original Star Wars.
That was their first mistake.
Yes, no one gives a shit about her Star Wars.
Well, that's kind of basically ground zero for what went wrong with this entire thing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because I mean, even where some of the a lot of the other rebootable, franchises or whatever you call them, IP, at least most of them tried to understand that they had to pay some homage to the initial concept or what it was. Star Wars was one of the only ones where they really felt like, it's like, did you guys even really watch the movies? Like, I really don't think Kathleen Kennedy ever really sat down and watched Star Wars. I really don't.
Well,
especially when she says
was in front of it, but she was probably on her.
She
mobile
saw it in
half the time.
1977. I bet you $5. Kind of like Ryan Johnson. Like if we listened to him when he was talking about watching Star Wars, it basically sounded like he saw the movie once or twice in his life. In fact, here's another better example. Remember Paul Feig?
Yeah.
He saw Ghostbusters once in the fucking theater in 1984. And he hadn't seen it since when he made his movie.
Yeah, so
no wonder he didn't get it.
He didn't
exactly my point, right?
Well,
like,
that's the point. I mean, isn't that like the selling point to all of the creatives they bring in for these things, is that they have absolutely no connection, love for, or knowledge of the IP they're looking at, because that allows them to separate themselves and create something new that they don't have to pay the original creators for because of more than 25% difference or whatever.
You're partially
the
right.
is.
Like the other half is, and this is what we were told, especially about Star Trek people, because we were told multiple times by multiple people, it's like, if you ever go in for any job here to work for any of these places, especially to write, the last thing you tell them is that you're a fan of the franchise. Because then that to them sounds like you come with baggage, meaning you're going to question shit, meaning you know the IP, meaning like if somebody says, I've got this great idea, why don't we have so-and-so do this and that and the other? And then if you're the guy in the room to say, yeah, you can't do that because of this, or they already did that, then yeah, they don't like that.
If you become the Henry Cavill of The Witcher is basically what they want to avoid. Yeah. Well, for Galactic Star Cruiser,
to stifle their creative freedom by telling them you can't do that because of this and that. No.
Right.
We're creatives, and the first idiot idea that comes into our mind, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, for Galactic Star Cruiser, they're kind of locked in, though.
What if he gets the dog instead of the girl?
Yeah.
We named the dog Indiana. Anyway, the Galactic Star Cruiser had nowhere to go but to do the sequel trilogy, because the whole idea was that you were sort of role-playing within the Galactic Star Cruiser a story that they would then take the sort of away mission would be to the park, which was also has to be in the sequel trilogy. So as soon as Star Wars Disneyland was in the sequel trilogy, everything surrounding it had to be sequel trilogy. They couldn't go back to the original trilogy. They couldn't give people what they wanted. So they were locked into the storyline of these characters that nobody cares about. In my mind, if they had a space like that, they should have had like seasons or something. Like season 1 of Galactic Star Cruiser will be, you get to go to the sequel trilogy. And then season 2, we're going back in time because the ship was supposedly operating throughout Star Wars history. Then you can do, original trilogy year or something. But they were stuck into this nonsense.
Yeah, and especially when it requires the life savings of someone just to go there.
Yeah, $5,000 or $6,000 for like a family or something. Insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to cost.
Yeah, I think the cheapest for one person for one day, I think was like 3,000 something. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was like 3,400 something. Just for the base stuff. Like you don't get to do anything special, anything magic. It's like just for your base package it was. And then for the bigger packages, yeah, it was in that $5,000-$6,000 a day range. And they advertised or talked about it. There was like that one meeting or whatever they had where they were like, yeah, we want to make it, like exclusive and elite. And it's like, yeah, do you know what that means? That means that nobody's going to go.
Yeah, everybody's going to wait for the first reviews, which means that the early months are going to be completely barren. And if it doesn't go off without a hitch in the first round, everyone's going to know it because we're in the modern age. Right. And they all did, and they all knew, and they're all the problems, all the things they might have been able to fix in post or with, because it's basically like a theater production, because they've got all these actors walking around doing scenes, and they have to see. I've been involved in live action role play,
and you really don't get to interact in any way. You just get like meet and greets after the fact.
No, and they didn't have the bugs worked out. With somebody walks in, it's like, okay, I want to take the role of a member, a spy for the First Order, or somebody. I want to be a part of the Resistance, and then you're supposed to have these little games, little storylines you participate in and interact with the actors there to try to.
Didn't the Star Trek thing have something kind of like that? I know the
I-
VR game is, but I mean, I thought they did at the Star Trek attraction where you can go into the actual.
Well,
thing.
I went to the Las Vegas Star Trek experience back when it was live.
Yeah, that.
And
They didn't
you
have
weren't
anything like that?
No, you weren't really like supposed to be play acting as a member of the crew. You were an inadvertent
Oh, okay.
arrival on the Enterprise, and then stuff
So it
happened.
was the same.
So.
I was just curious because I thought it was like if you actually
No,
got
this
to-
this is supposed to be much more immersive. This is supposed to be you're playing a character, you have a
But we
role,
saw
you're
the
taking part in
video.
a story.
Well, most
yeah.
of us did. If not, it's out there. Like you said, what's her face, Jenny something or other, did a great
Mhm.
breakdown of it. And we've seen it all. They're literally just running around, like you said, doing play acting in front of all these people, and you don't get to interact. You don't really get to do anything. And this thing felt like it was the biggest slam dunk in history, and they turned it into the biggest what the fuck in history, if you ask me, because like I sat back and I'm like, look, you got Star Wars. You could basically build an entire park, not just a section, but an entire park around the franchise. You could have six parks just for each film alone, right? Like you walk in and you walk into Mos Espa, right, from episode 1. And you're in Mos Espa and you go through the little shops and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, like, then you walk into Coruscant from episode 2. And you got all that cool shit there. Then you walk into, you know, the stuff from episode 3, but you pick a planet from there, maybe Kashyyyk or something like that. And then, you know, like for, you know, episode 4, you're back into Mos Eisley or on the Death Star. You know, and then, you know, for episode 5, you can either be in Hoth or Dagobah. And episode 3, you're in Endor or whatever, you know, Jabba's Palace. I mean, you could do all of those things, right? And different aspects of them. And the main attraction in the center of it all is the fucking Millennium Falcon, where you actually get to interact and play and do the things that you do in the Millennium Falcon, right? Like somebody's a pilot, somebody's shooting down, you know, you got the 2 gunners. So there you go. You got 3 or 4 people that can interact in one session, you know, for 15, 20 minutes. How stupid are they?
Well, so
and you also, where's an X-Wing? Where's an X-Wing in this equation where you get to blow up the Death Star?
Well, as far as the hotel's concerned, they were trying to do too many things at once. It's sort of like Homer Simpson's car, where he put everything he wanted onto a car and it was a complete disaster. Yeah, so they were trying to both run a functioning hotel and run a mass participant live action role playing game that's also connected to a theme park across the street. It didn't make any sense. There were too many moving parts that didn't interact with each other well. And it was also, as we say, in a setting that nobody cared about. If they'd made a hotel out of Jabba's palace and not some no-name starship that like a recognizable location, you would have had a better shot, maybe. But the whole thing was run by idiots, so it's kind of irrelevant.
No, and you know what? How deep is it really going to go? Notwithstanding Tom's ideas, if you want a really good experience, go to Louisburg in Nova Scotia, Canada, where they've got the largest recreated fort in North America. And the whole place, when you go there in the summertime, is just packed with people pretending to be the citizens of that specific time, like 1760 or whatever. I can't remember. But it's jammed with them. So you are walking amongst all these people. Like we know the recreator forts, but this is huge. They do a fantastic job, and then a soldier will grab you and throw you in the brink, and then talk to you in French, demanding things. You're going, well, I don't know. I mean, it's just a really, really well done experience. So forget about this. If you want something that's good, historic, go to Louisburg. This is just fluff. It's nonsense. You learn nothing from this. So we've been there many times. It's a great experience. Take the kids.
Yeah, certainly take them to that instead of going to what now is Disney Office Space.
And it's cheaper.
Yeah, it should be like one big Renaissance fair basically for Star Wars fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Although, once they get the office space in there, they should do a tour of that just to see whether people are working.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
Are there anyone actually going to be working there? Don't they, like all of the people that would be there, don't they still all work remotely since it's Disney?
I don't know, but the government sure does, and they're all pissed about that. But yeah.
They're being forced back to the office.
So none of us, I think, are surprised by the failure of this. We all knew it was going down in flames, basically like a Star Destroyer crashing into the Death Star.
The only thing I'm surprised by is how could this thing be greenlit in the first place?
Oh, Kathleen Kennedy. And it was stupidity. Because like I said,
Obviously.
look, do you know how cheap it would be? And I just brought it up on the screen. Do you realize that, and he's not wrong, the line would be for the people who get to actually, pull down the lever for the light speed? And how easy of a quote unquote ride is that? You're literally talking about a view screen where as soon as somebody pulls down a lever, it just goes into a streak of lights like the star, like you're going to hyperdrive. Like, how hard is that? I could do that at home.
We have the Millennium Falcon at home.
Yeah, we got one at home already. Well, no, and it's sad because I've got the Star Trek VR on my old PS4 if I wanted to get it out. And that is so fun because you're literally sitting in there and you can pick either the 09 ship or the original TOS ship and you get to be a crew member. You get to sit there in your spot and you have your designated role, right? And shit's happening and flying around and you can either be the captain, you could be the pilot, you could be whatever, you could be anybody you want on the ship. It's like, that's basically what people want in real life for Star Wars. They just want to be able to go in. And if you have little cosplay events, like, little storylines that people can follow, that's great. Otherwise, I'm sure a lot of people just like to wander around and just be in the world.
Yeah, like Andre said, Star Wars Disneyland from the beginning should have just been Star Wars Ren Fair. If they just got people that put Ren Fair organizations and events together and said, how do we make a Star Wars version of this that people can interact with willingly as characters or just muse around as participants, they would have a better, and they could have saved $1 billion. They wouldn't have needed a hotel.
They already had Star Tours too. They could have just built off of that. That makes no sense to me.
Oh, sure. I mean, it was a one-off thing. The hotel thing never made any sense.
No. I mean, if you want to do like a Star Wars themed hotel, fine. But this sounded like, I mean, it looked and sounded exactly like basically what it was, a ripoff.
Well, they needed to be separate things. Like I said, they're trying to jam a LARP experience into a hotel and dinner theater. No, those are three separate things you could have built separately and built for a heck of a lot cheaper than that.
Yeah, the financial mismanagement here is stunning.
I want to know where all the money went, though, because I understand the building itself is I mean, building a building is not exactly a cheap endeavor, but $1 billion, where did all the money go?
I wish Mikey was here because I bet you a lot of this was like under the rug shit. Like they didn't really spend as much as they claim they did. Like this is a write-off of some type.
Various administrative expenses.
No, my point is I don't think they actually spent as much as they're claiming. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this was some kind of shelter. I'm thinking
I heard the $1 billion. I heard the $1 billion number is the top end of an estimate. It's 350 to $1 billion. So it's kind of a wide spectrum.
This is one of those times where I don't think they actually spent the money because you're not seeing it, right? Mm-hmm. Like it'd be different if this was some elaborate thing and it was just badly planned out. No, this was little fucking cells, like you said, play acting, and there was no real ride. Like there was the main part was the you're in this building the whole time. So like it literally is like you might as well, it's like if you go into a hotel and like the people at the hotel decided they were going to put on a dinner and show, like Scribe just said. It was the cheapest, stupidest thing you could ever pull together for that much money. And I can't believe people would pay that much to sleep in a cell. Because it really was. It was like what, an 8x10 cell basically? And you had little bunk beds.
Yeah, you had tiny little bunk beds and like flat walls and a couple little doohickeys to interact with.
See, I got pictures here. They might even show it. So like, yeah, there's the show that they would put on for you. Oh, they don't have any pictures of the rooms, but the rooms were tiny as hell. They were like closets. But
or prison cells.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.